Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Giridhari Radha, Giridhari Radha. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gaur Nitai, Gaur Nitai, Gaur Nitai, Jaya Gaur Nitai. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakaचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा गिरिधारी भगवान की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा मैया की जय। श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि गौर। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Gurudev. Hare Krishna. Welcome to this morning session. We'll continue reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita ki jai. This is from the chapter titled London, A Dream Fulfilled. And it's a very, very interesting story. We may not be able to finish it today, but I'll definitely get started and arouse some curiosity to know what happens after that. One day, a Mr. Doyal phoned, representing a large London Hindu society. He had heard the devotees wanted Radha Krishna deities, and he had a pair he would donate. When Prabhupada heard the news, he sent Tamal Krishna, Mukunda, and Shyam Sundar to Mr. Doyal's home to see the deities. Radha and Krishna were white marble and stood about 3 feet high. Never before had the devotees seen such large deities, and they offered obeisances. When they returned to the temple and told Prabhupada, he said, "Take me there at once." Srila Prabhupada, accompanied by Shyam Sundar, Mukunda, and Tamal Krishna, arrived by van at Mr. Doyal's home. Prabhupada entered the living room and sat down. The deities covered by cloth stood on a table in the corner. Tamal Krishna was about to unveil them when Prabhupada checked him. "No, that's all right." Prabhupada sat and spoke with Mr. Doyal, asking him about his work and where he had come from India, and he met Doyal's family. Prabhupada and his host chatted while the devotees listened. Swamiji, Mr. Dayal said at length, I want to show you my deities. Yes, Prabhupada replied. I will see them after some time. Prabhupada began to speak about his Krishna consciousness mission, and after a while, Mr. Doyle again requested, please take a look at these deities. And with that, he walked over and unveiled Radha and Krishna. Oh, yes, Prabhupada said, folding his hands respectfully. Mr. Doyle explained that he had ordered the deities from India for his own use, but in transit, a tiny piece of Radharani's finger had chipped off. Therefore, according to Hindu tradition, the deities could not be installed. Tamal Krishna, Prabhupada said, see how heavy these deities are? Tamal Krishna, placing one hand at Radharani's base and the other around her shoulder, lifted her. Not so heavy, he said. Sham Sundar, Prabhupada said, see how heavy is Krishna? The deities were actually heavy for one man to carry, but the devotees understood Prabhupada's intention. Not bad, Sham Sundar said, holding Krishna a few inches off the table. And so we will conclude here today. And, tomorrow we'll see what happens after this episode. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Hridayat Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Parahamsyam Ekam Amalam Jnanam Param Giyate Tatra Jnana Viraga Bhakti Sahitam Naishkarmyamavishkritam Tat Shrinvan Supathan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Share my screen. All right, reading today from Canto 5, Chapter 6, Text 16. So this is, some of the verses in Bhagavatam are not in any particular meter, so we can't really sing them. So we just recite them or just chant them. And then we'll look at the word for word and translation. We'll maybe not do the repeat today. Itihasma sakala veda loka deva brahmana gavam param gurur bhagavata rishabhakyasya vishuddha charitam iritam pumsam samasta duscharita bhiharanam parama mahamangalayanam idam anushraddhaya pachitayanushrinotyaashravayati Vavahito Bhagavati Tasmin Vasudeva Ekanto Bhakti Anayorapi Samanuvartate. We'll read the word for word. Iti, thus, hasma, indeed, sakala, all, Veda of knowledge, loka of people in general, Deva of the demigods, Brahmana of the Brahmanas, Gavam of the cows, Parama, the Supreme, Guruho, Master, Bhagavataha, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Rishabha Akhyasya, whose name was Lord Rishabdev, Vishuddha, pure, Acharitam, activities, Iritam, now explained, Pumsam, of every living entity, Samasta, all, Dushcharita, sinful activities, Abhiharanam, destroying, Parama, foremost, Maha, great, Mangala, of auspiciousness, Ayanam, the shelter, Idam, this, Anushraddhaya, with faith, Upachitaya, increasing, Anushrinoti, hears from authority, Ashravayati, speaks to others, Va, or, Avahitaha, being attentive, Bhagavati, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Tasmin, unto him, Vasudeve, to Lord Vasudev, Lord Krishna, Eka Antataha, unflinching, Bhakti, devotion, Anayoho, of both groups, the listeners and the speakers, Api, certainly, Samanuvartate, factually begins. Would somebody like to read the translation?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandot Pranam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shukdev Goswami continued, Lord Rishabh of all Vedic knowledge, human beings, demigods, cows and brahmanas. I have already explained these pure transcendental activities which will vanquish the sinful activities of all living entities. This narration of Lord Rishabh's pastime is the reservoir of all auspicious things. Whoever attentively hears or speaks of them, following in the footsteps of the Acharyas, will certainly attain unalloyed devotional service at the lotus feet of the Lord, Vasudev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And somebody would like to read the purport?
May I, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Sure, please.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The teachings of Lord Rishabdev are for the people of all yugas, Satyug, Treta Yug, Dwapar Yug, and especially Kali Yug. These instructions are so powerful that even in this age of Kali, one can attain perfection simply by explaining the instructions, following in the footsteps of the acharyas, or listening to the instructions with great attention. If one does so, one can attain the platform of pure devotional service to Lord Vasudeva. The pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees are recorded in Srimad Bhagavatam, so that those who recite these pastimes and listen to them will become purified. Nityam Bhagavate Sevayam. As a matter of principle, devotees should read, speak and hear Srimad Bhagavatam persistently, 24 hours daily, if possible. That is the recommendation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kirtanya Sada Hari. One should either chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra or read Srimad Bhagavatam and thereby try to understand the characteristics and instructions of the Supreme Lord, who appeared as Lord Rishabdev, Lord Kapil and Lord Krishna. In this way, one can become fully aware of the transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, one who knows the transcendental nature of the Lord's birth and activities attain liberation from material bondage and returns to Godhead. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Stop share. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the translation once again, Sukadev Goswami continued, Lord Rishabdev is the master of all Vedic knowledge, human beings, demigods, cows, and brahmanas. I have already explained his pure transcendental activities, which will vanquish the sinful activities of all living entities. This narration of Lord Rishabdev's pastimes is the reservoir of all auspicious things. Whoever attentively hears or speaks of them, following in the footsteps of the Acharyas, will certainly attain unalloyed devotional service at the lotus feet of Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we are at the end of Lord Rishabdev's pastime in Bhagavatam. This is the last chapter. In fact, this is the last section of this chapter. I think it's one of the shortest chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's just got 19 texts. So in the translation, Shukadev Goswami is telling us 5 elements, 5 things. And in the purport also, Prabhupada very nicely highlights those points. So first thing Shukadev Goswami says is, Rishabdev is the master. So here he uses a very nice word. He says, Parama Guruho. So we understand Guru is the teacher. So Rishabdev is Param Guru. Obviously, the Supreme Personality is Param Guru. So he's the master. And specifically, if you see, Shukadev Goswami talks about the master of a few things, a few items here. So he's the master of all Vedic knowledge. That's number 1. Veda. So he uses those words. Veda, Loka, Deva, Brahmana, and Gava. 5 things. So he is the master of all Vedic knowledge. He is the master of all human beings. He is the master of all the Brahmanas. He is the master of all the Devas. And he is the master of all cows. So although it is very clear that he is a Supreme Personality and he is the master of everything, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, specifically to re-emphasize the point, Shukadev Goswami again mentions that he is actually the master of everything for all living entities, specifically these elements. That's the number 1, that who is he? Who is Rishabdev? It's like a consolidation. Second, Shukadev Goswami says that he has already explained his pure transcendental activities, right? And what are his transcendental activities? Of course, we have read in the past few chapters. But specifically, as part of his pastime, his Leela, he has specifically given us some instructions. Lord Rishabdev has given us some instructions. And those instructions, Prabhupada writes in the purport. He starts the purport by saying that the teachings of Lord Rishabdev, they are not just teachings for that particular time only, for his particular audience only. It transcends all of that, and his teachings are universal. In one way, they are timeless. So they are not restricted to the yuga that they were spoken. So they are relevant for all the 4 yugas. And so in one way we can say, or we can understand that they are relevant for all the yugas. They are relevant for living entities in all the yugas. And in one way they are timeless. So Rishabdev's teachings are timeless. And of course, in the last chapter, out of 35 texts, 1 to 27 texts are all his teachings. Now, in his teachings also, if we just look at some, no, we can't take all of them, but let's look at some of his teachings. And let's see how they are universal. Of course, one way we can understand when the Lord is giving us some instructions or teachings, obviously it is timeless, just like he gave the instruction to Arjuna. They are timeless. But let's look at some of the teachings. So first thing in the last chapter, Rishabdev is telling us that we should engage in austerity. We should engage in austerity to attain devotional service. So austerity not for material benefits. Austerity is required for attaining devotional service, right? And if we actually engage in austerity, it is purifying and it is the bestower of supreme eternal bliss. That is his primary first teaching that he tells. And the second is that we have to render service to Mahatmas, to great souls, to the pure devotees of the Lord. We have to render service. He also says that this human form of life is meant to perform our duties in a way that we don't get attached to any duty or any situation or people while doing our duty. So doing our duty without attachment to them, but doing our duty as a matter of our dharma in doing that activity. And all this doing our duty business has to be done with minimal endeavor. It shouldn't be atyahara. No, it has to be minimal endeavor. Then a very significant point he says is we have to accept a spiritual master, a guru, a guide, a mentor. And in their guidance, who is obviously in the parampara, we have to chant, glorify, and serve the devotees. And specifically in that context, Rishabdev also mentions to his other sons that they need to completely follow and serve the eldest brother, Bharat, or their elder brother. And then, of course, his most important teaching, where he says that you cannot take on a responsible position if you are not able to deliver your dependents from the clutches of birth and death and make them deathless. So these are just some of the snippets. So now if you see all of these teachings, they are not specifically related to a particular yuga. You can't say, oh, no, this one, no. Doing service to Mahatmas, this is only relevant for Satya Yuga or Treta Yuga or Dwapar Yuga. It's not relevant in Kali Yuga. No. They are all completely relevant. And that's why the teachings of the Supreme Lord, as opposed to teachings of other living entities which are not connected to scriptural understanding, they have a time limit. They are relevant for a particular group of people in a particular time frame. And then they become useless or they don't have any relevance. So people forget. So we always like to hear things, right? So what are the things we like to hear? We don't like to hear very normal, usual stuff. So we always like to hear something that is out of the ordinary, something that catches our attention, something that is sensational, something that we can get excited with. And when we hear that news or when we hear that, we are excited to share that with others. Why? It increases our excitement. But if it is an incident that has happened, say, for example, something comes in the newspaper, some incident which is out of the ordinary, and it catches our attention, we get excited. We are constantly contemplating on it. And then we are looking at opportunities to share that with others. So we call them, or we meet a friend, we meet outside in the mall or in the office. We tell them, hey, do you hear that? That so-and-so happened. Now, that incident is not connected to us. We are not influential in that incident. But because that incident has attracted our attention and has increase some excitement in us, we want to share it. And it has no relevance to the person that we are speaking to, nor to us, but we get some momentary excitement. And then what happens? After a few days, everything dies. We completely forget about it. So all these mundane things, mundane information, it is not that we should not keep abreast of the news, what is going on around us. We need to know, but we just need to know the very basics. We don't need to delve on it and contemplate on it. That is just waste of time. But we have to understand, the more we delve into these things, it is all temporary, things that will change over a period of time. But our mind is always looking for something exciting. Is it not? We are always looking at something exciting. When we are on the smartphone, we'll go through so many messages. But when some message, somebody, who's developed some disease, or he's extremely obese or extremely beautiful, or he's done some very abominable activity, while scrolling like this, oh, we stop there. Yeah, and we see it. Yes, true. So why do we see it? It is catching our attention. It is something out of the ordinary. Now, exactly capitalizing on our natural tendency to be attracted to out of the ordinary, here Shukadev Goswami is re-emphasizing the fact that all of the activities of Lord Rishabdev are extraordinary. His teachings are extraordinary. The way he conducted his life is extraordinary. So can you imagine somebody just moving around on the road, just like somebody out of this world, and people are abusing him and talking bad about him, and he's completely transcendental. We can't even think of something like this. So these incidents are told to us to arouse our attention, to grab our attention. So this is the first part, that Lord Rishabdev is the master. So who is this person? He is the master. And by explaining his activities, our attention is grabbed. Sukadeva Goswami grabbing our attention. Now, when we listen to it attentively, because it is grabbing our attention, although we may not understand the spiritual nature of what we are hearing, anything that we hear, we want to hear because it's exciting, something that attracts us to it. After we are attracted, that's when the second stage happens, is when we are listening to something mundane. We listen to it, we get some initial excitement, and then do we get any benefit? It doesn't benefit us. It doesn't help us in any way. It doesn't make us a better person. It doesn't wash away our sins. It doesn't make us transcendental. It does not connect us to the Supreme Lord, or it doesn't even give us money. It doesn't give us a job. It doesn't give us any fame. Nothing. But just for a momentary excitement, we are listening to that news and transmitting that news, right? And we are wasting so much time. So here, Shukadev Goswami says that I have already explained these pure transcendental activities, provided we have heard attentively. So when these exciting pastimes are explained, are described, it all depends on the nature and the sincerity of the hearer. So if we are able to hear this message with full attention, with full focus, with full sincerity, with full faith, then what happens? He says, this will vanquish the sinful activities of all living entities. So just by hearing, whether we understand or not, just by hearing, all the sinful activities of all living entities are completely vanquished. That is a second thing. Then the third thing is, this narration of Lord Rishabdev's pastime is the reservoir of all auspicious things. So not only our sinful activities are vanquished, we are we are able to accumulate auspiciousness somehow or the other. So it says Mangala. So it says in this verse, he says, Shukdev Goswami says, Duscharita Abhiharinam. So Duscharita, all the sinful activities are destroyed. And then Mangala. Mangala is created. Then the fourth part is, whoever attentively hears or speaks of them. Fifth, not only speaking about them, you have to speak about them following the footsteps of the acharyas. So the caveat is we have to hear, not only hear, but hear attentively. No distraction, no multitasking, no phones. If we are able to hear very attentively without distraction and following the footsteps of the acharyas, right? As acharyas have given, not the way we want to hear and understand, the way acharyas have given us and want us to understand. If you are able to assimilate and hear that message, then what happens? At the end, the last part is, we will certainly attain unalloyed devotional service at the lotus feet of Vasudev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is, there's a few words that Shukdev Goswami hears, is Anushraddhaya. So we have to hear with full faith, Shraddhaya. Everything that we understand, our whole process of devotional service starts with faith. And of course, it starts with faith, but it is also our duty to engage in this process in the association of devotees. Why? To naturally increase our faith. More faith, increase faith, till it becomes so strong that nothing can shake us, nothing can shake that faith. So first is Anushraddhaya, and then Anushrinoti, that we have to hear from the right authority. That is very important. Nowadays, everybody seems to become an authority. Everybody is an authority on Bhagavad Gita. Everybody is talking about Gita. But we have to be very careful. When some forwards are sent to us and somebody speaking from Bhagavad Gita, we have to be very discriminate a bit and see that who is this? Is this person speaking from Parampara or not? If it is Parampara, yes, we can hear. If it is not, then we know what to do. So hearing from authority is important. And then once we hear from authority, what do? Sometimes, we just hear. Like Gauranga Darshan Prabhu was here Saturday, Sunday. I'm sure all of you, if not most of you, attended the session, and we got quite a few things out of those sessions, I'm pretty sure. But the thing is, we heard attentively, we liked it, it was nice. That is a good start. But now there has to be a follow-up. Follow-up what? Follow-up of assimilating the notes. What have we actually got from those 2 days? We have to make, I'm sure we've made our notes, but we have to consolidate our notes and rewrite it again, which help us understand whatever we have heard. After understanding, there has to be contemplation. Like Prabhupada gave us those 5 aspects of study. There has to be contemplation on it. What is it? What did he say? What context is it? How can I apply it? What is the best way of application? And then is the very, very, very important stage. Unless we come to that stage, all that we have heard will not have its potency. It will not be able to affect us in a way that it should affect us. And that is something we don't do. Somehow or the other, because of various reasons, we are not able to do. So after we hear, we have to contemplate on it. After contemplation is a very important thing here. Sukadeva Goswami also mentions, we all know it, but specifically mentions here, Ashravayati. So we have to speak about it to others. We have to discuss with other like-minded devotees. So like the seminar is there, now we should have we should create an opportunity where the attendees, at least if not all, some of them come together and they discuss their notes, what have they learned, what is very relevant for them, some of the challenges they find in implementing them, and from the shastras or from other examples, how they can implement them, or they may need some help from other devotees to share that, okay, I've got this challenge, what can I do? And then the devotees discuss amongst each other, inspire each other to apply that knowledge in their own life. So this is very important. Just hearing is a good start, but after hearing, there has to be contemplation. There has to be understanding, of course. There has to be contemplation, and then there also has to be the speaking, the discussion, which is very, very, very important. And then what happens if we are doing that, and we have to do it avahitaha, very attentively, with full focus, whether we are hearing or whether we are speaking. We have to be extremely focused. Then the last part is ekantaha bhaktihi. Ekantaha means unflinching. There is no mixture. Ekantaha, one-pointed. One-pointed bhakti or unflinching devotion is the byproduct of following this process. And it benefits everybody. Anayaho. It benefits the speaker, it benefits the audience as well. So in the purport, Prabhupada further writes that one can attain perfection simply by explaining the instructions, following in the footsteps of the acharyas, or listening to the instructions with great attention. So further he writes, that's why in Bhagavatam it is said Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So all these aspects at the end of that pastime, which we understand as Phalashruti, which is the Mahatmya of that whole pastime. Ultimately, we know Bhagavatam, all of the pastimes are narrated to help us increase our bhakti, to help us reconnect more closely with the Supreme Lord. That is the ultimate purpose. But along with that purpose, there are also some material benefits that are offered. Why? Because we are not in that frame of mind or in that consciousness, that purified consciousness, where we are doing everything only to please Guru and Krishna. Is it not? How many of us are chanting just to please Krishna, just to please Guru? Yeah. We are just chanting initially, I don't know about all of you, but we're just chanting because it's a vow we have taken, it's a duty, let me finish. You know, when we are chanting, how many times we are thinking, oh, am I chanting this round? Is Krishna pleased? Are the deities pleased? Is my Guru going to be pleased? How many of us think like that? So we are not in that consciousness. It doesn't mean, we should not try. We should try. And that's why this association of devotees is to help and inspire each other. All of us are chanting. But what can we do to come together and chant so that our quality of chanting increases by 0.1%? And slowly, slowly we can aspire to go there. So if only, and Bhagavatam says that if you read this pastime and narrate this pastime, you'll go back to Godhead. Okay, that is good. It's good for us to know. But it because of our consciousness, which is not fully pure, we are also hankering for certain material benefits, is it not? So Bhagavatam is giving us both of aspects. It is telling us that we'll get the supreme spiritual benefit. We will also get some material benefit. So in this Leela, this Rishabhdev Leela, what is the material benefit? All our sins will go away. There will be auspiciousness. And what is the spiritual benefit? Ultimately, we will get unalloyed devotional service. Just like in Prabhupada quotes here from Bhagavad Gita. What is that verse? Chapter 4, text 9. Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. So what does it say? That one who knows what? the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities. Such a person, after he leaves this material world, he does not come back again. In fact, he goes back to that supreme abode, never to come back again. Now, to facilitate that process and inspire us to move in that direction, all of these pastimes are narrated. And the goal is we have to understand. It is not just reading, it is also to understand, contemplate, and have firm conviction in those pastimes to help us remember Krishna. That is the purpose. So if we are not discussing these pastimes, if we are not memorizing some shlokas and having those shlokas as anchors in those pastimes, as anchors in our lives, then the whole katha, this whole pastime of Krishna, will be like a side activity. It is not integrated in our life. Like in Hare Krishna school, the children are taught, maths and English and other subjects, but everything is taught in a very Krishna conscious way. So it's not that they just come to the school and they're just doing Aarti in the morning and doing some chanting, and rest of the time they're doing normal curriculum and learning normal things. And at the end, again, they say some prayers and they go back home. No, it is not that Krishna consciousness is just added. Krishna consciousness is not added in the life. Initially, of course, it is. But Krishna consciousness is completely, it is a part, it is completely mixed in our life and it transforms us. So we cannot say that this point is Krishna conscious in our life and this point is not. Ultimately, we have to dovetail all activities in Krishna consciousness. And that's what Prabhupada has given us. That's what Prabhupada wants us to do. So to enable us to do that, there are these pastimes and these falashrutis. Just like we read, I think in Prithu Maharaj's, that the falashruti was in chapter 23, text 28 and 29, where it says that if somebody with devotion regularly reads and chants the activities of Prithu Maharaj, he will attain unflinching faith and attraction for the lotus feet of Krishna. And he will cross over the descents. So again, see, there is spiritual and a material, although in one way nothing is material. But specifically it gives us that. Okay. Then we also heard the falashruti of Prachetas, where Shukadeva Goswami mentions that one who hears the topics of the kings surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they will get wealth, long life, reputation, fortune, and they'll ultimately go back to Godhead. Another falashruti, Maharaj Chitraketu, which we will be doing in the next canto. If somebody who rises early and recites the history of Chitraketu, he will be able to control his mind, words, and remember the Lord and ultimately go back to Godhead. So if you see, consistently, all of these pastimes have got a very consistent falashruti. And it took 18,000 verses to convince our mind and to create that transformation in us. So Bhagavatam is not just something to read in the morning and finish. Bhagavatam is for contemplation. Bhagavatam is for transforming our life. We are looking for transformation, not just small change. Of course, transformation happens in smaller amounts perhaps, but over a period of time, it's huge. So main thing is to develop the attraction. How to develop the attraction? By constant practice. By constant practice. Because at the end of the day, when we read Bhagavatam, how do we feel? When we hear Bhagavatam, what is the emotion that we carry in us? Bhagavad Gita was heard by so many people. Even now, so many people are hearing. But how many of the people who are hearing Bhagavad Gita are actually experiencing bliss? It obviously transformed Arjuna's life, is it not? What was Arjun's situation before he heard Bhagavad Gita? He was a failure, a colossal failure in his duty or in the task that he was allocated as a Kshatriya. And after hearing Bhagavad Gita, he became from ineffective Kshatriya, he became an extremely effective Kshatriya. And his life was transformed. What was the impact of Bhagavad Gita on Sanjaya, who was narrating this as it was happening? So what did Sanjay say in 1876? Sanjay says, Rajan samsritya. Excuse me. Samvadam idam uttamam. Adbhutam. Keshavarjunayoho punyam rishyami cha muhur muhu. So he says, what does he say? Rajan samsritya. Samsritya means I'm remembering. And he uses the word twice. Samsritya means I'm repeatedly remembering. So although Sanjay heard it, he is repeatedly remembering. Remembering what? Samvadam imam adbhutam. This particular conversation between Krishna and Arjun, which is adbhut, which is wondrous. It's just wonderful. Because it's wonderful, he is remembering it again and again and again. And then what does he say? Keshavarjanayaho punyam. This is very, very purifying. This holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjun is extremely purifying. And what is his endeavor? His endeavor is he has heard it and it is very wondrous. It has caught his attention. And because it has caught his attention, the byproduct is what? Constant remembering, repeated remembrance. Yeah, repeated remembrance. But what is the byproduct? He is not striving for it, but what is the byproduct? It's the last line. Rishyami cha muhur muhu. Rishyami means I take pleasure. By remembering this holy dialogue, I'm feeling extreme pleasure, ecstasy, blissfulness. When? Muhur muhu, at every moment. So whenever I'm remembering, I feel happy. So I remember more, I feel more happy. Then I remember more, I feel more happy. And that is the remembrance of Krishna. So when we remember Krishna, it is not that suddenly I remember his, dhoti, or I remember his garland, which is also good. But it is not that it comes as flash and then I'm back to my normal self. I'm remembering, and one remembrance is leading me to another remembrance, and it's a chain reaction. And as a result of that, are we experiencing bliss in our heart? Are we feeling joyful? Are we experiencing pleasure? Are we feeling excited to remember more? And as soon as we feel excited, we feel attracted, it gives us pleasure. A natural progression is that we want to share that with others. We want to share this message and give them the experience of going through the same process and experiencing pleasure themselves. We have experienced it, but we would like others also to experience. And this is the primary purpose of Shukdev Goswami giving us so much information in how the message of Bhagavatam, as long as we are attentively hearing it, is going to transform our whole life. So, in conclusion, he describes the unusual activities of Rishabdev, which is out of the ordinary. Why? Because it should catch our attention. So we become curious to know more. And once we are curious and we want to hear, we will hear attentively. See, if it catches our attention, only then we will hear attentively. Of course, we have to take some efforts to avoid distractions as well, but we should hear effectively. Then we have to spend some time with that message that we have heard to understand, to contemplate, to make our notes, and follow the explanations given by previous acharyas. And then naturally, when we are understanding and contemplating and remembering, and we are feeling pleasure, natural progression is we would like to speak about it. We may not always sit on a Vyasasana and give a class, but when we are discussing among devotees, this becomes a natural topic that comes up. And because we are constantly remembering and wanting opportunities to speak, our sinful reactions will vanish. Sinful reactions will be taken away. It will be a very auspicious situation, and everybody is ultimately benefited. Their lives are completely transformed. So Bhagavatam is not about sometime activity. It is complete transformation of our lives. And through these activities, we not only apply these in our life and experience the transformation ourselves, we also need to share it with others and create opportunities whereby we can make a difference in their lives, being an instrument in the hands of the parampara and acharyas. At the end, just to conclude, the nice verse from Bhagavad Gita 10:9, Machchita Madgata Prana Bodhayantaha Parasparam Katyantascha Mam Nityam Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. That is our business as a devotee. Read, contemplate, understand, remember, speak, discuss, transform our lives, transform the lives of others. Ratraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much. I'd like to open it up for summaries, questions, concerns.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandot Pranam.
Krishna Prabhu.
Is a nice explanation of the text, concluding the Falashruti, how this Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, or whatever the scriptures we have presently provided by Srila Prabhupada, all the juice of this, or the moral of this, you read it, you contemplate it, understand it, take the bliss, and share the bliss to others, so the others gets benefit. So with this all discussion about activities of Rishabdes, conclude the same thing. So on and off we are reading the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. Is it giving us the bliss? Is it attracting us? Are we thinking about it and how we are applying in our lives with the true nature of his attention? That what it gives us the pleasure, and that's what the teaching Srila Prabhupada is giving us through this scripture. It is not for yourself, it is to be spread out so that others also get benefit. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Right, sorry, just okay. I'll just speak like this. I couldn't get my video to come on. I thank you very much. Your class really helped me in a few issues that I've been pondering over. So I would request you to just elaborate a little bit more on the point of you mentioned the atyahar, and we need to perform our duties, but with minimal endeavor. And why I'm saying that is because when we are working in the world outside, it's quite demanding because the performance has to be top notch. They want the quality has to be top notch. Everything that takes so much of attention when we are working in the world. And sometimes it feels like even though we want to do the minimal endeavor, it's they are very expert at drawing the maximum endeavor from the employees or the customers or the service provider. Do you have any realizations? I mean, I'm requesting, could you please share some realizations where you have dealt with such situations, and being a devotee, how to find that fine-tune that concept of minimal endeavor at the same time doing our duty and not get stuck into the atyahar.
Yeah, very relevant question, Prabhu. Thank you. So we have a very good example in that regard, where sometimes we feel that because I am expected to give my best performance in office and always be on top of the game, I have to work very hard for it. That's a common perception. Whilst it may not be false, but assuming that that is always the case is also not correct. We have to be top notch, but to be top notch, we don't have to work, as Prabhupada says, like a donkey. We have to work intelligently. Prabhupada wants us to be lazy intelligent, not busy intelligent. And an example that comes to mind is that of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I mean, you can't have somebody, and he was an employee of the British rule. Of course, he had got certain powers being the district magistrate, but he was ultimately answerable to somebody, and he had to be at the best. Like he was given all the tough cases, which normal British officers or magistrates could not handle. He used to get them. So you can imagine, to deal with them, how much more he might have to put in terms of time, intelligence, resources to solve those cases. But we hear from his biography, he used to work half the time as compared to his British counterparts to do the jobs that even though they couldn't do. And he was so good that British actually gave him all the facilities that he asked for. And what did he do with the spare time? We all know what he did. So it is not about just having that perception, just to be good, I have to work hard, put in more time. What can I do to be good, but without stretching myself too much? How can we work intelligently? And that's something that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is teaching by his own example. Of course, depending on what job we are doing, what profession we are, it's good to keep our eyes and ears open and see what are the ways in which we can perform without stretching too much. It's not like I can't have a very generic answer to that, but it's definitely possible if we have a change in our mindset. We have to shift our mindset and say, I don't want to work hard, or I want to work hard, but not very hard, because atyahara will lead to prayas, unnecessary endeavor. So Krishna or Prabhupada doesn't say don't endeavor, but endeavor minimally as much as required. Don't over endeavor so that it breaks your back and it starts affecting our spiritual life or our spiritual activities, which we should do at least on a minimal basis. So hopefully that's some pointers, Prabhu, for you.
Thank you, Prabhu. This is fantastic. Very, very helpful. I don't know, does anyone have any question? If nobody has, later I have a follow-up question on this, but for now I'll just stop and let somebody else ask a question.
Anybody else? No, that's fine, Prabhu. You can continue.
Okay, great. So as you explained about the atyahara should not lead to atyahara leads to prayas. Now I have also I've been also contemplating on this fact that many of our stalwart great devotees in our movement, for example, Gauranga Darshan Prabhu, and many more, like my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Devamrita Swami. These were like very accomplished scholars from great universities. So from the materialistic point of view, we see that, wow, they were at the pinnacle in their very early stages of life, like 1918, 20. My Guru Maharaj graduated from Yale, and Gauranga Darshan Prabhu graduated from Indian Institute of Science, all these great universities. But then they had this clarity and that unflinching faith, and they took the path of bhakti, and they didn't get lured by the unlimited, amazing possibilities they had due to their amazing successes in their early careers or studies. Now, that's what I've been contemplating. If you would like to just elaborate a little bit, that unflinching faith, that security in faith rather than security in your accomplishment and abilities, Um, how how can we increase our security in faith, in the holy name, um, so that our security in the accomplishments due to karmic activity or that we get or something like that, or skills or abilities and all of that, I hope I could convey my question.
So your question is, people, although they studied in very big institutes and they were scholarly, intelligent people, they have taken to this path straight away, and their faith is so strong, whereas somewhere in the other, yourself or other devotees may not have that strong faith and take to that path straight away. They are still
Yes.
lingering on by working very hard just to maintain them.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. So then the point is, what is stopping you from having that faith? What
Yes.
do you not have that they had? They had the holy name, they had the Prabhupada's books, they had association. We also have the holy name, we also have Prabhupada's books, we also have association. So what is stopping us from developing a deeper faith? What is stopping us? It's for us to contemplate. See, external situations can be different. The fact that the examples you've given are sannyasis or brahmacharis, we are in a grihastha ashram. That's an external situation. Even Prabhupada was a grihastha. And his instruction in spiritual life was given before even he got initiated, when he first met his guru. But it doesn't mean that Prabhupada forgot about it and just continued with his family life. No, he always remembered. His faith, in fact, grew stronger. But he continued with his duties till he came to the point where he completely focused himself. So it's to understand where we are. It's an internal transformation. It's an internal development of faith that needs to happen. And when that happens, automatically our mind gets cleared on certain priorities. So it's about priority management. We have to have priorities in life. And at this point, what is the priority? And if you're not very clear or sure or a bit cloudy, we need to have a sangha of devotees who are able to guide us in that regard. Even like Govya Makhyati Prachati needs to happen. And that's how we inspire each other. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is achieved it. I'm talking in terms of the typical Grihastha circles, but we never know what is the internal consciousness of one Grihastha from the other. Just by looking at their externally, they may be very in an enjoying mood with their family, with their children, and we just see them as ordinary Grihasthas. But who knows what's their consciousness? So unless we associate with somebody, unless we discuss with somebody, we really don't know what is their level of faith. Their intensity of sadhana is very important. So it doesn't matter what stage we are. If our faith is strong, if our sadhana is strong, we can have access to the same facilities or that same amount of faith that other exalted devotees have got. And then it's a question of just working towards it and making it better. Would that be a pointer for you, Prabhu?
Very beautiful, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Coming to the point of my take is the sadhu sangha is the deep sadhu sangha.
Sadhu sangha and sadhana, these are our eternal wealth. If we do not exercise these things, then we do not have anybody to blame. We can't blame our situation and other people. We are just ourselves. So this introspection, honest introspection on a regular basis is very, very required. And it has to happen in the association of like-minded devotees who are here only to help, support, and inspire each other and progress in this path together.
Thank you very much.
That's why we've got these forums. Make use of it.
Thank you very much. Very helpful.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. It's 8:36. I think we should finish today. Acha kalpatarubhyascha
कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय।
की
जय।
प्रभु की जय। श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंद हरि हरि बोल। All close assembled devotees. Hare